Hi, my name is Rick from Oslo, Norway, and I want to ask you about working with different spiritual teachers. There's so many different pathways and traditions and teachers out there. And when you look at how some people relate to those teachers, it's often almost a form of blind submission, giving themselves up into the hands of the teacher. So from a modern spiritual perspective, how can we establish healthy relationships to spiritual teachers and yet at the same time walk our own unique pathways?
Spiritual teachers have always been part of spiritual traditions and spiritual history, not just among humans, but everywhere. It's natural for anyone of a more mature consciousness to assist the ones who are in their growth and evolution. It's just like adults taking care of children, and even children taking care of even smaller children. It's a natural urge. It's part of how nature works. In the relationship between teacher and student, I always emphasize one important principle. It's about you as a student. It's never about the teacher. So the question is, are you a true student? When you are authentic, when you are dedicated in your spiritual studies, you will find truth. And that will be channeled or mirrored through everyone in your life, also spiritual teachers. You will gravitate towards the externalizations of your own path. Often I talk with people who've been with spiritual teachers and after several years they discover that this teacher is corrupt. And they blame the teacher and they feel that they've wasted their time and they want to find a teacher they can devote themselves to. And my take is that the teacher is never the problem. The teacher can be on any level of consciousness. It's someone who experiences that he or she has something to give. You, however, are the one deciding if you want to listen or not. And when you gravitate towards a teacher who teaches from his or her own ego and who wants power or attention, you are the one who turned that being into your teacher. That individual has the right to be on that exact point in his or her own evolution. So that's never the problem. When you gravitate towards a corrupt teacher, it's because you are corrupt. When you have a dedicated heart, you will gravitate towards individual that can open your heart even more and can lead you to truth. So the question is never, how do I find a true teacher? The question is, how can I become a true student? There are many ways, however, to recognize where a teacher is in his or her own journey. One thing I find interesting is that many teachers, they seek confirmation from their students. They want that devotion. They want that dedication towards themselves personally. As if people can give them confirmation that they are enlightened. They need people to believe in the story about their own enlightenment so they can feel enlightened. When you are in a state of enlightenment, you do not need confirmation because you understand it's not about you anymore. You become an extension of reality. How people relate to that is irrelevant to you. You never see confirmation. You never need anything from anyone. And yet, it's very clear that most people in the role of a teacher, they use their students to produce confirmation, to make them feel good about themselves. And that's okay. That belongs to that level of consciousness, but it's not enlightenment. When you have the need to submit, and this is normal, you find it in religion, you find it in spiritual traditions, and you find it in freer types of spirituality. You want to submit because it makes you feel safe. You want to know that you are doing the right thing, that you found the right teacher or the right teaching. And submitting is something that is in our genetic makeup. You're part of a group, and you can feel safe. You can feel that you are chosen. And therefore, when you submit, when you have that pattern of submission, you want the teacher to be above you. Because how else can you submit? So you want to build up that ego of the teacher so you can feel safe. As a group animal, a pack animal, humans survived by having strong leaders. We wanted the strongest among us to lead us. And we would submit to them, and we would trust them. And we would place our lives in their hands. That was a good survival strategy. And spiritually, we have a tendency to do the same thing. This is why people want to be saved. It triggers these deep programmings. And we get a cascade of brain chemicals and emotions that make us believe that this is truth. In fact, in the human brain, the reward chemicals we get from submission will normally be what we consider to be truth. So the stronger the leader is, the more we can believe in that individual, the more we are convinced that this is truth. Because from a biological perspective, survival is truth. For a life form, that is what it's all about. So, whatever will help you survive, that is truth from a biological level. And this is why you get reward chemicals whenever you feel that this person will help you survive. So, when a teacher shows dominance, I have truth. I am the only one representing truth. When you decide to believe it, you will get reward chemicals telling you that you will be fine, you're safe now, you are saved. This person will lead you. And it's all chemical. It's biology. It's actually not spirituality. So we have this need to submit. And therefore, often we gravitate towards individuals who have their own ego in mind. But as we grow, as we learn and study spiritual principles, we might start seeing through that. And then we realize, oh, This teacher is all about him or herself. I was tricked. In fact, you were not. You were just dominated by your own DNA. And when you start realizing that this is actually corrupt, it simply means that you're discovering your own corruption, that your spiritual search is being governed by your DNA, not your consciousness. There is a teacher or teaching, levels of understanding, levels of truth for every single level of evolution. When you leave one level and enter the next one, it doesn't mean that there is anything wrong with the previous level. That's what you needed to go through in order to grow to the next level. There is never anything wrong with being 4 years old. But at some point, you're 5 years old, and 6 years old, and 7 years old. And then you look back and you understand that you've grown out of these childish things. Doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with it, because it represents levels of consciousness and evolution. And there will be plenty of individuals who feel drawn to being in the leader position, and plenty of people willing and actively seeking being in the role of being those submissive followers. It's part of the journey. At some point, though, you are ready to develop consciousness for real. And then it all changes. Then you will have to grow into the realization that it's all you. You are the only one responsible for your own growth. You have to stop submitting. You have to stop turning anyone into an externalization of your own beliefs and biological needs. And then, what is a teacher? And how can you work with him or her? When you want to walk your own path, when you've started that process of waking up and you realize, oh, it's about me walking my path and the discoveries I have to make in order to unfold what I am, you realize that you cannot follow. As long as you follow a teacher, you're walking behind someone, you're copying. You're trying to become someone else. And that's fine. I often compare this to the process artists go through. When you learn how to paint, you start by copying other artists' work, because then you learn the technique and you learn their take on how they turn paint and canvas into art. And you copy and you learn the techniques, and after a while, you start implementing your own twists. You find your own voice in all of that technique, in all of that copying. And gradually you develop your own voice. But that's not where you start. You start by copying. So being a follower, that's where you start. But it's not where you end up. When you've done enough following, you begin realizing the spiritual principles. And then you start experimenting. And you explore and you have fun with it. And you take the wheel. You're done handing over responsibility. You want to drive yourself. You're done being a passenger. And one thing I think it's important to explain is that power does not exist. Power is the result of you actively handing over the authority to someone else. That is the only power that exists. If you do not hand over the authority to someone else, there is no power. So, a person, individual, or a teacher is only as powerful as you and other people make him or her into. Power is not real. So, when you grow out of following, there's no power involved anymore. And then the real spiritual teachers will step forward, because it's only then you're ready. We do not want to spend our time with people who insist that they should submit, that they want to be led, they want to be saved. That's kid stuff. Now you're ready to deal with teachers as spiritual presence and principles. How does that work? Think of someone in a higher consciousness. It simply means that this individual has included more realizations, a bigger understanding of how existence works. And that means that this presence can mirror you more completely. Because what we're trying to figure out throughout our spiritual journeys is, who am I? What is existence? And what is the relationship? And we go around, in our different lifetimes, different dimensions, different everything, and try to find bits and pieces here and there. It's like existence is mirroring you completely, but as an individual, you see a little bit here, a little bit there, a little bit there, and you're trying to piece it together. When you meet someone in a higher consciousness, that individual can mirror you more completely, because that individual has integrated more of existence and a deeper understanding, which means instead of running around in life like a mosaic of information, you can get the complete picture of who you are and your potentials through one point that is fully realized. So, when looking into that spiritual presence, you are looking at your own potentials. Because a true spiritual teacher is not about the individual of the teachers. An enlightened presence is not an individual anymore. It's a presence of existence. And it offers the full spectrum mirroring of everything you are. So you are in fact sending out the point of evolution that you are in, your current understanding, your current realizations. And that will then be mirrored back from the teacher in its full potential, then showing you whatever you send out, whatever you focus on, what is the full potential of this in your journey. So you're using the teacher as a way to activate your own higher potentials. An enlightened presence will always know that you have to walk the path yourself. The unfoldment is for you to figure out. And we don't care. It's not our job to care, because we don't have stories. We know that everyone has to go through what they need to go through. Enlightenment is inevitable. It will happen. And everything that happens is just part of that. So, it's a collaboration. The enlightened presence will always know that all levels of life are equal, because they're all drops of the same ocean. The only difference is different levels of active realizations of what we are. But we are still the same. And an enlightened consciousness will see through all the limitations that an individual experiences in him or herself and only relates to the full potential, no matter what level that life form or consciousness is in. So the enlightened presence will always and only see that full version of you. And that is what he or she will be reflecting back. There's no attachment. There's no need. And an enlightened presence will certainly not see confirmation. It will be available. But it's for the student to explore that mirror and interact with it, to strengthen the focus on his or her own path, own insights, and own journey. The enlightened presence knows that when an individual has reached his or her full potential, as an individual, we still just represent what we are. There's a reason why we all exist, and it's because we represent different aspects of the one. Our job is to assist unfolding what's unique about you, what's authentic spiritually, that aspect of God that you are. And you are the only one who can unfold that. I can show how you can do it, but you have to figure out how to do it exactly in your journey. Whenever you follow, whenever you copy, that will not unfold what is authentic about you. It means that you're still practicing. It is only when you unfold what is completely authentic and unique, that's when you grow. Any enlightened presence will know this. So he or she will have no need for you to copy. In fact, any enlightened presence will do anything in his or her power to assist you in taking the wheel, in exploring, in becoming competent and confident in your own path. Because from a spiritual perspective, anytime you copy, anytime you submit, anytime you seek the group, anytime you surrender to the person that is the teacher, you're wasting your time and you're actually not growing. The teacher is a mirror of that process that would lead you to enlightenment. But you will have to find your own way in this. And this is why it's so different. No one will help you. No one will save you because it's not necessary. You realize that you were never lost. Life will unfold you. And the enlightened presence is the full consciousness of existence, being present as a focal point of the student. So the student can accelerate his or her own growth towards complete unfoldment of all potentials. And I hope you understand that you cannot follow to make that happen. You need to stop following. And the relationship between the student and teacher is more of a collaboration. The teacher knowing that I can show you how to do this, but there it all stops. I can assist you, I can facilitate, but it's only when you understand how to unfold yourself, that's when the unfoldment happens. It's when you understand how to build yourself up and expand into specific realization, that's when it becomes real. It's not when I teach you. Teaching is facilitating. It's nurturing, but it's not the actual growth. This is why I say you always have to reinvent everything I teach. When you just listen to what I say and say, yeah, that's truth. No, it's not. It's only truth to you when you have reinvented it, when you have explored it, and you get to the point of getting your own realizations. So it's not something you have been told, but something you're actively living. Your path belongs to you. Your spiritual journey is yours only. As a spiritual teacher, I can be there. I can assist. I can explain. I can show you how things work. The rest is up to you. And through that collaboration, you will get stronger. You will get more confident. And you will get the deeper insights. And you will gradually understand fully how life works. An expansion of consciousness is inclusion. It means that you're able to include more and more. You're able to live in bigger pictures, larger contexts, and you live in harmony with it. And you expand, and you expand, and you expand until all your lifetimes, all your learning, all your processes, in all of time and existence melt into one. And you begin understanding the universe as one. And you start seeing yourself not as part of it, but as the one. Bringing souls, atmas, to enlightenment. That is what we do. We do not seek followers. So stop following and decide to be a true student, because that's what it's all about.
And how can we learn to be sensitive to, or at least to know the difference between manipulation and true inspired teaching?
In the relationship with a teacher, there will be a lot of weird things happening. Because remember that a teacher will normally be at a level of evolution and in a level of consciousness that you have yet to grow into. Now, an important part of that means when relating to a teacher and you go into that field, you enter a space that operates on a higher level of natural laws. We call that parametry, which is basically how the different laws operate. Think that when you are in a certain level of consciousness, laws of nature, the processes of life will vibrate on that particular level, which means that you will be mirrored a certain way, your karma will be expressed in a certain way. As you expand, the laws of nature changes. What you have access to changes, and your interactions with life will change. One of the great things about working with a teacher is that you get access to a field of spiritual laws, laws of nature that is far beyond your own consciousness. So you're entering a room vibrating on a higher level of consciousness than you're able to vibrate yourself. Now, when everything moves faster, where everything has a higher frequency and a more expanded frequency, what happens when you enter? It means things will blow up in your face, because at a slower pace, you don't notice as much, because everything is slower. So you can deal with your life and you can be in resistance and blockages and denials, and you won't really notice. When you enter a space where those blockages normally do not exist, they will become very clear to you. So things will happen, things will manifest, and it will blow up in your face. Often when that happens, you will then start doubting the teacher. It's like, what is he doing? Is he manipulating me? Why is he doing this? And it's simply the meeting between a lower consciousness and a higher one. And it means that the impurities that you have, and you have a lot of them, the ones who are closest to the surface, they will get activated more. And it means that you can detect them, you can discover them, because they will become part of your life. Your resistance will become clarified so that you can do something about them. Because how we work out our karma is by interacting with the manifestations of our own resistance. That means problems. Problems, challenges, issues, things we don't like. By interacting with them and trying to find solutions, that's also how we grow. Because by finding solutions, we figure out, how can I be in harmony with life a little more? How can I make this work? And we change. And this is how we then grow into a more expanded awareness. Working with a teacher, that process will accelerate. And it can be confusing sometimes, because you don't know if things are happening because you're being manipulated, or if it's because you're meeting higher consciousness. Because if someone is trying to manipulate you, you can also experience some of the same manifestations. But guess what? It doesn't matter, because whatever manifests are still your own resistance. It's still your own karma. If it happens because you enter the space of someone in a higher consciousness, and things get clarified and manifest through that, that is your karma. If you have gravitated towards a corrupt being, that's also part of your karma in your consciousness. And whatever happens will be part of your own belief systems and your resistance in life, showing you this is what you got to deal with. We can never, ever blame anyone else for anything. Anything that ever manifests will be the externalization of your own resistance to life. And it happens so that we may learn and adjust and expand as the result. So, by being relaxed about it and not putting too much emphasis on the teacher being pure or not, and focusing more on your own heart. Is your heart pure, or is it not? You will be on a healthier track in your relationship to life, because ultimately you need to go through that shift and become the one leading yourself, promoting your own growth, dealing with your own resistance, being an active part of your dialogue with life, not needing someone to stand in between you and life to interpret. The difference between a less advanced teacher is that he or she often wants to be between you and life and be the one who interprets, because that's how that individual will find purpose and feel good about him or herself, and that's okay. But in enlightenment, there's no need for that. Our job is to make you competent for real. Teach you the language, teach you the skills, make you the master of your own existence.